Hello and welcome back to Tutorial Tuesdays. I apologize for the lengthy hiatus that happened for the past couple of weeks. I have been unbelievably busy with freelance work and full-time work and other stuff. So I also really wanted to do a compositing tutorial, and I even took some cool background plates, but I could not find my mirror ball, and I'm still looking for it. So in the meantime, I'm going to do a character modeling tutorial. And I know a lot of you are familiar with the cube head modeling, where you do the insets and stuff like that, but we're going to start the same way that I always start, which is with a circle with 8 subdivisions. Oh, by the way, this is Mabel from Gravity Falls, which is my favorite new Disney Channel show, which I am not even a fan of Disney Channel, but this show is the funniest thing they've come out with in a very long time, and I love it. So we're going to go ahead and turn on some mirroring action and drag the eye out, and this is lagging because of the screencast keys, which is super obnoxious, but I think we can handle it. So now the eyelids are a little bit weird on her. We want them to be, I guess, about as big as the eyes because they're going to have to be able to come around. So in 3D character modeling, there is a principle where you can't make it look exactly like a 2D character sketch. It's just not going to happen because in 2D, the side view is not going to be line up perfectly with the front view. It's a drawing. They can cheat it. In 3D, we can't cheat it because we're in 3D. We have an actual 3D space model of our character, and that just doesn't usually work out. So we have to take some liberties here with converting the 2D to 3D, and with that, rather than just using spheres on a geo shape, we're going to put eyelids, because a 3D character with eyes that are this absolutely buggy would be creepy as hell. I'm going to save you the suspense. It would just be straight up plain creepy. So, create the eyelids here. We can move these up a little bit, out, out, out. And that will do. So generally, the next thing that I do when modeling a character is extrude, but I'm going to, these eyes, I don't want to overlap the center here because we're doing actual eyelids, but we might have to. This is a first for me. So we're going to extrude out. Then we can take these ones and make them bigger while maintaining this here. Then we can turn on some clipping action, extrude X, and connect those right there. And then around all of this, we want to extrude one more time to get sort of binoculars for good eye topology. And that will be the basis of our character model. So I did actually try recording this 2 times earlier doing the box method, and I'm just not comfortable with that, which is why I'm doing it this way. Alright, so then we can move this up, and this nose is going to be a toughie because it is so awkwardly placed. You really have to model characters to match them, though. So, for instance, we are now going to have to create the mouth, which I'm actually going to make smaller than this because this is her super wide smile. She has a much smaller mouth usually. But to do that, I'm going to add another circle, rotate X 90, you know the drill, move it up here. We can delete half of it, move this up, move this down, move this all around, W subdivide, get some more subdivisions, and like I promised, we want this to be smaller, but still smiling. So we're going to sort of want this to match up with these subdivisions, and we're going to give her a big chin like she has in this drawing right here and this drawing right here. And we can move this up, and generally when you're doing mouths, you want the edge loops to match up. So, as a general character, she has very big eyes, but she also in some drawings you can see the eyelids around her eyes, so you have to factor that in, man. And it is not easy. But to do so, we can go ahead and model some eyelids by adding an extra loop and pushing it in to make some eyelid action here. So why am I doing fan art? Well, I like the show, and I always think it is fun to try to take a 2D drawing or image that is never meant to be 3D and turn it 3D. I think it's a really good challenge. So let's go ahead and add some spheres that are big enough to be her eyes. So we'll rotate X 90, and we will put these here. You have to make the eyes bigger than they would actually be in the socket, because otherwise they're going to be way too buggy. See, like those are way too buggy. So we gotta make them big, and you gotta move them over so they match the side of the head. Generally, with cartoon characters, you're gonna have to take the head and move it up, like so. Gotta match the sockets to the eyes. Very important. Which you can get away with a little bit of leeway here when you take the eye and extrude it and move it in. You just don't want any empty holes showing around the eyes. So we can duplicate this guy, and we can move him negative x-axis. We can actually Alt-D, which will create a linked object. So now whatever we do to this eye will happen over here. We can select these faces and inset them. And we will create a couple new materials here. We'll assign the second one and make it black, and make it black. And smooth it off, like so. All right. Now we're getting somewhere. So now the biggest challenge is A, figuring out how to do the nose here, and B, figuring out how to connect it all. So I think to do the nose, we're just going to sort of get these faces somewhat matching up here. And then we're just going to sort of connect the dots, which I'm going to create another edge loop here just so we can make a nice edge ring, like so. And then we can select both these edge loops and say bridge. And that way we can create as many edge loops as we want for the lips. And we also are going to want to bring the mouth back some, as is typical with people. And how creepy is this looking so far? Hopefully it won't stay creepy forever, because we can sort of start to build the rest of the head. Like so. So, in general, when you're working with eyes, we're going to want a couple more subdivisions here, which means we can then take this and move them in and round it all out nicely. And after we finish modeling this, we're actually going to want to take all of this and make it disproportionate, because you'll notice that this eye is actually bigger than this eye, and that helps add to the character. So to truly add to the character, we are going to need to do that. So when I'm working in edit mode, I'll generally sometimes turn off the viewing in edit mode of the subdivision surface, because it's hard to see the mesh sometimes. But then again, in this case, I think I'll leave it on. Then we are going to take the nose and decide where we want to extrude that from. So again, we have to work from the character here. We can't do general topology rules and just hope they're going to work perfectly. Like, look at the side here. The eyes actually come back pretty far. So let's go ahead and do that without making it creepy. And I think that will suffice there, and then we can take the mouth, and like I said, you always want the edge loops to match up. So these two match up, these two can match up, then we'll create one center one, like so, which can come back even further, like so, because when you smile, your cheeks go back. And I think we can smooth this out too. And this entire shape, I think that the upper lip needs to come out more, actually, which means that this can come back more. And we can go ahead and inset this. I'm thinking it's this area right here to create the nose, which then we're going to want to shape to look more like her nose. Like so. And then we can take the outside of it, round it off like so, and make it more nose-like by making it less peg-like. And then you'll also notice that it's more circular than it is egg-shaped, so we'll go ahead and fix that as well by taking this, moving it down, moving it out, and it's not quite how I was hoping it would look. I think we can actually take it and scale it up a little bit. Smooth it out some. And I'm going to check and see how we're doing on time. Okay, 12 minutes in, as you can see, and we are doing all right, surprisingly. I know that it looks pretty abysmal at the meantime, but you can trust me when I say that this is actually coming along, because the final step really is the smoothing out part and making it look all right. We just have to get the topology built correctly first, which is the hard part. The topology built while making it look like the character. So let's go ahead and extrude around. This part will come out like so, and we'll create her skull, which looks like it's just a straight up bean shape. So we can come all the way around here. And we can, so this loop matches purely with the innermost one. So we can sort of move this in some and create another edge loop here. And don't worry about it on the eyes, we can always add one on the upper later. And then we can go ahead and bridge those, which I just hit F rather than going to edge bridge since there was only one edge to bridge. And we can go ahead and start smoothing this out. And we can bring this out, bring this in, until we get the desired shape that we're going for, which is sort of a bean shape. And as you can notice, right now we have her face on one plane. Here it looks like forehead, then the chin comes out the longest. So we're going to have to fix that, which means grabbing these points. This is the easiest way I can think of, by the way, hitting O to turn this on, and then we can just sort of bring it all out. Maybe not. Looks like it's already out by the time that it gets to the nose. If you look at the reference, the nose is like the dividing plane for when it comes out. And then this is actually supposed to be pretty straight down. Alright. We have to round out the eye here. Now that we have the extra subdivision, we can add the extra subdivision here as well, just so the eyelids match up if we ever decide to rig this. And same here. And then just round it all out nice and neat. I apologize for my voice going so low. That's just what happens when I am taking off in my work. So we can slide this guy over here, move it up, and I think the eyes overall can come in just a little bit. So we can select this here loop thing, select these here loops, and drag them in. We'll have to drag the eyelid in as well, or the eyeball. I think that'll in general that'll work in general. We're going to have to create the rest of the topology here to figure out what else we're going to be doing. But in general, I think that these edge loops can come down more. That will make it much cleaner on our deforms if we ever decide to rig this character. Which at the time being, I have no such plans, but who knows for the future. All right. Go ahead and create one more loop around here, I think. Connect it down here. Subdivide this and connect it right here. And it is getting late, so I might not be able to do this as a tutorial. I might just have to finish it as art. I don't know why I'm telling you that, because if I don't publish it, I don't publish it, and you're never going to see this video. And if I do publish it now, I'm going to look like a jerk for even thinking about not publishing it. Just the whole process, guys, is really just add edge loops and extrude along until you get something you like. Might have been easier to sculpt it out. I don't know. I've never really sculpted a cartoon character before. But sometimes adding edge loops is necessary. Gotta get those subdivisions just right. And in general, cartoon characters in 3D look better if they actually have some sort of lip. So I'm going to bring this out some. Like so. And that really just smooths it all out nice and neat. And we can take the cheeks over here and sort of move them up to make her look more smiley rather than scary. We can sort of move this out because her cheeks come pretty far out. Move them down. And you get the point. Add more edge loops. And the centermost edges of the eye in general on a character model. These ones right here. That means that I'm missing some edge loops. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alright, we match now. We can just slide this guy around to round it out some. And then we can take these guys and extrude them out this way. Because in general, this is supposed to wrap all the way around the head. Which we're going to have to cover this area in hair, which how we build this area is going to be where we take some serious liberties taking this model into 3D. Because this is going to look super awkward unless there is more space around the eyes. That comes down here. We can sort of carve the shape that we want into the head using the hair. And we can add this loop here. Sort of just make one really awkward face, which is never really suggested. I would say don't ever do that ever again. I just do it sometimes because I like to switch things up. We can use J to connect, W to subdivide, J to connect, W to subdivide, and J to connect. You know the drill. Alrighty. And we can take this guy and move him out to match the head. Same with all these, we need to match the chin, of course. And we also need to smooth it out because right now it's ugly as all hell. Oh my god, that's ugly. Okay. Mabel, you ugly girl. You're adorable in the show, but ugly in my software. Alrighty. And the top of the head isn't going to matter a whole lot just because it's going to be covered by hair, which I still haven't figured out how we're going to approach that one. That's going to be a toughie. But she definitely needs a forehead, and overall I think the entire thing can be because from the side she just still, her mouth doesn't look like it comes out far enough. So we can take all of this minus U, O, G, Y, okay. Her face comes way in. Maybe something like that. Now it's our job to smooth it all out, make the transition work somehow, which is going to be very tough. Fortunately, if we have any areas that aren't completely smooth, subdivision surface, or not subdivision surface, subsurface scattering will help smooth that out if we ever get to materials on this. Another method you can use is using the Sculpt tool, and you can just smooth it out, like so. Then you can add some nice cheek here by moving it all back a little bit. Alright, let's go ahead and make the skin colored just for looks. I'm going to go ahead and save too. So I'm going to pick the skin color and put it in the viewport as well. And we'll go ahead and hit smooth and continue working. We really want to create that brow and that forehead. Of course, I guess we can just move this back to create the forehead, sort of. And then sort of split this, slide this up a little bit. I think we can actually take the forehead back so long as it maintains forehead shape. And Then notice this edge loop right here that goes around the chin. I usually like to connect this up here. And we can just sort of cut these subdivisions like so. And that, same thing you can do with the vertices for edge slide is also hit G twice. I'm just going to add in some mouth edge loops here, just to sort of smooth things out a bit more and give her more cheek material to use. Can sort of slide that all up, and we can add one more just to make it centered. That way, I believe one of these will be the center. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Shoot, we wanted an odd, actually. So before we added that edge loop, it was actually perfect. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No! Okay, so we want this to be the center. So we need to add edge loop there and an edge loop there. So now the edge loops will match up. Gotta make sure the edge loops match up, because if you ever decide to rig it, you want the rigging to go as smoothly and easily as possible, because rigging is a pain. Alright, now we are getting somewhere. And we can take this, and half of cartoon modeling is keeping it smooth. That is the hardest thing in the world. Especially when you add edge loops and you gotta smooth it all out again, because now it looks blocky and flat. It's just not fun. You really have to keep it smooth, because you can get away with things not being perfectly smooth when you're working in realism. But when you're working with cartoon characters, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This star right here is no good. So what we might have to do here is say split. Take this loop, move it down, and then bridge it and smooth it out. So bridge, and that'll give us a little more topology to work with here, and will be less awkward. See, that star was basically preventing us from having cheeks, which was super awkward. So having this many edges crammed up here is not fun, but it will be better to be able to have this topology here. So we can sort of take this out to give her some nice puffy cute cheeks, and we can also take this whole thing out some. And we can probably drag the mouth in, which will pronounce her cheeks more. Which, dear God, that looks creepy. I'm gonna be the first one to say it. You don't have to even tell me. But I think that is also in part due to the lack of any sort of hair. Which we can go ahead and connect this up here. We can go ahead and connect this here. I think we're gonna take these edges and say split. And move those out. Bridge, and we'll connect to that here. That gives us that one extra loop up top here. And also gives us room here to play with to smooth it out. Not that it matters, because this will all be covered by hair, for the most part. and create one more loop here, and connect it all together. And there we have our hideous top of the head, which we can then proceed to smooth out significantly. Hey, it's looking cuter already now that she has the top of her head. And we can take this, we're going to create an edge loop here, slide this one. Deselect those, F, connect that, W subdivide, connect those. You can handle this in one of like a billion ways. I'm probably doing it in the messiest way possible, but I just like to work like this. That's an awful excuse, I know. You can yell at me, whatever. 2, 4. So J, 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 J. And we have to smooth all of this out here. Like so. And this will all work out yet, young 3D artists. All right. This is going to need some serious smoothing out. Let's go ahead and just finish up the job here of connecting everything, then we can sculpt to smooth it all out. Which is something that people don't seem to do often enough. They won't use the sculpt, they'll only use the sculpt tools with like a billion subdivisions, when really you can use them to help clean up your models to some extent, which is pretty nice. Let's go ahead and round this guy out here. And I just have to figure out how to connect all of this. Which this guy I think should come around here, like so. Subdivide J. And we can move this out. Oh my gosh, it's almost like sculpting Tan was easier than doing this cartoon character. It's actually been a while since I've done a cartoon character though, so you've got to forgive me, eh? Let's see, how can we connect all of this? We can create 2 subdivisions here, J, 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 create a subdivision and J, and that will connect everything. But now we have this blocky disaster, so let's go into sculpt mode here and start to smooth it all out. You gotta be careful smoothing when you have mirror mode on, because it will smooth weirdly along the center. We'll grab this, move it down, we'll smooth this area out some. We'll sort of draw this out. This has to be round or it won't look like her. This is going to have to come in more. This character, as you can tell, was not designed to work in 3D at all, but we're going to get somewhere with this, no worries, even if it looks awful. Alright, that will do for the meantime. Actually, I'm going to try to get the cheeks out. we can actually move this entire mouth area thing up a little bit. So we want the cheeks to be part of the mouth edge loops. Then we can slide you up, slide you up, slide you up, clean up, everybody do your share, clean up, clean up. Let's add some hair. And I'm gonna save. It is worth noting that on people, generally it looks unappealing to have an underbite, so almost all of your characters, regardless of whether she has an underbite or not, should have an overbite if you want them to not look like a caveman. And we can sort of smooth this transition out a little bit more, which looks awkward as hell, not gonna lie. Which means we can take all of this and push it back in just a little bit. Okay. This whole area looks awkward just because of how it doesn't translate from 2D to 3D horribly well. So we're just going to have to sort of figure this one out ourselves as far as the 3D rendition goes. And I'm thinking that the solution is going to be to move this back in. And maybe compensate a little bit here too, around the eyes. And we still have to match the eyelids to the eyes, which is a pain in the ass. But totally doable. Oh my god, that is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. It almost looked better with the eyes bulging. Oh, let's go ahead and create another loop here just for the hell of it. Give her a smoother forehead. And let's go ahead and start covering up this disgusting head with a wig, or just hair. I'm gonna say she's wearing a wig just because I'm a cruel individual. Maybe we can, I know the eye pupils are centered here, but maybe, I suggest maybe we could move the mouth area up some, sort of squish it up so the eyelids go a little bit higher. Because that would fix our problem of the overbite, or underbite, or whatever. Regardless, let's go ahead and create some hair. especially since she has the ugliest top of a head ever. So, how we're going to do that is, I actually have no idea. We're going to wing it. But I've been known to successfully wing things in the past before, and I know this topology is ugly. I'm counting on you all, if you're even following along and not just watching my wacky methods, I'm counting on you all to clean up whatever you model. If you model Mabel or if you model something else, cleaning up your models is not my job. I will clean this up if I have the chance, but like I said, I have to get back to my freelance work here shortly. Let's go ahead and give her a neck, which I'm thinking maybe like right around here, which I will inset like so, and extrude. And it will be covered up by a sweater, so it doesn't matter a whole lot. But that will do. Oh my goodness gracious. That is, Alrighty, then we can take you and say smooth. Okay, I've never actually touched the plation in smooth, so I'm just going to do regular smooth vertex. And move you in again. And this really needs to be less square. So we'll make it just that. And sorry if I stop talking for periods of time. You, I guess, can see what I'm doing and hopefully learning. But at this point, I'm just sort of trying to make the neck more circular rather than square. And the neck also needs to... On people, the neck does not go straight down. It angles back some. So, regardless of the fact that her neck appears to go straight down, I'm going to angle it back some to make it appear more natural. And it would appear as though it still needs to be skinnier. Which is pretty cray. Cray. Alright, let's add some hair. And I'm just going to sort of create this plane here. And then we're going to snap it to the face. Turn on this option as well by holding down Control. And that will snap it to her head. Which is exactly what we want. And this goes back to where her ears will be, which is somewhere around here. Whenever I hold the plane down, I'm holding Control. Then we can add a solidify modifier and up the thickness and change the offset to 1. And add a subdivision surface. Like so. And that, ladies and gents, will give us some fine hair. Go to the top view. Scale X0, get it over here. Then we'll take this and extrude around. Like so, to her ear. Now her hair is signaturely going to go through her eye like that, which means we are going to make it go in front of the eye because we're in 3D and not in 2D where we can pull tricks like that. But the goal here is to get the hair up to the hairband, and then we'll create a second hair object that goes back behind. We're going to cheat it. So we're dirty, rotten little cheaters. I'm actually going to delete this and make this part of the hair the same way I did that, so it has good edge flow. Down to where the ears would be. All right. That looks about correct. Let's go ahead and pick her hair color, especially for the viewport since that's what we are working from. You can smooth it out. And we can take this whole thing and extrude. Or we can just take it like this and extrude and create a face and subdivide it and hit J. And this is about where the headband is going to need to connect. Plus this hair is going to, we're going to need to add more subdivisions and stuff because the hair needs to go out way further. Making it follow the head was just sort of a starting point. But as you can see, if we turn off the background image, it is quite possibly the ugliest creature you've ever seen. But let's go ahead and move the hair. By the way, if you hit Control 3, you can go to the other side of the head. We will go ahead and make a face right here. And add a subdivision here. And add a subdivision here. Now we just have to connect all of this, which we're going to go ahead and turn off Solidify for, because we already know we have it looking about right, we just have to connect it all. And there we go. We can turn our Solidify back on. And now we can take the hair as it goes further back and move it out to where it needs to be. Which again, 3D liberties, I don't think we want to take it quite as far as in the drawing, or else it'll look a bit funny. But let's go ahead and just start moving it out. Like so. So I know that this isn't much of a follow along, and I apologize for that, but hopefully you can still learn something from this video. Gotta smooth all this out. Don't know where these guys came from. Also, that mouth is looking awkward. Generally, when you model a character, you're going to model it with the mouth basically closed. Maybe a little bit of space between the lips, so you can rig it. But that just doesn't seem very Mabel-like to me. Also, I'm going to go ahead and smooth this out a little bit. Just to make her a bit more appealing. Then we can take this back edge loop, scale it on the y-axis, move it back a little bit to where the ears are going to be. So it looks like the ears come fully all the way back, which we're going to go ahead and add in some makeshift ears here. Which I usually just extrude out like so, and then work with it. For a lot of cartoon characters anyway. Then, if we're anal about it, we can create some cuts here. To create a nice loop around the ear. Which I totally misfired on that one up there, but that is quite alright. Because we can just merge him there, and then we have to, of course, merge the triangles that we just created. For some reason, the knife tool is not doing its job tonight. But now we have a nice ring around the ears, which we would have had from the get-go if we had just inset them to start out with. And ears are typically going to rotate back more than they are forward. So we'll go ahead and take these and rotate them back. Maybe out just a little bit more. See, now that looks awkward. Of course, it'll look less awkward once we add the hair back in. We just got to get the hair here, going up behind the ears. And we can go and turn off background image to see where we stand, and she totally looks like a dude. But that is where we add our headband in. So we can go ahead and move you back. We can add another edge loop here. Move it up to make it fit around the ears a bit nicer. Take you, drag you back. Which, I know this needs to go around the eye. There's got to be a fix for that. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. That's where we had to take our 3D liberties. I think we can compromise a little bit. First of all, sharpen this up some. But I think we can take this off the eye some. Before we go ahead and create the rest of the hair. Which, let's go ahead and scale Y 0. Actually, we don't need to do that. We can just extrude this guy. No, band will go about right here. GY. Like so. Then we will select that loop, Shift D, P, separate selection, add 2 loops to it. That will get us a nice and flat headband. Then we can just make it thicker than the hair. And that will give us our headband, which totally looks like it gets a little bit wider up at the top. So we'll go ahead and do that too. And give that a nice color like red. We'll make it match her shirt, as it tends to do in the show. Ah, shoot, I forgot to give it a new material first. Alright. So now we can create the rest of the hair, which I'm just going to use a cube for. So, did not mean to solidify. Subdivision surface, smooth it down some, scale it out, put it at 0 on the x-axis so it matches up with everything. Move it about here where it's centered. 2 subdivisions. Move it up. Subdivision here. And this is going to be the tricky part. We need the hair to come back. And it's going to be long hair. Like so. And then we can bring you up. Like so. And then here we can loosen up the edge loop a little bit. Make it a lot less tight. And we can also go ahead and groom it around the ears. Like so. And then her hair comes down to these like ball formations at the bottom, which 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just say there's 5. So we will extrude that out. Extrude, extrude, extrude. No, that's probably not the best way to handle the hair, but that's quite alright, because it will work for our purposes of just modeling the character. And we can take these, move them in, take these, move them in, and let's go ahead and add a body. Let's see what I'm doing on. Okay, we're at about 1 hour, so that will give us just a little bit of time here to make the sweater, skirt, and legs, which are a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and apply our hair material, which is material 3. Smooth it off. And notice her hair is going through her head. We can fix that issue by adding a mouth bag, which is what you place teeth into. Like so, which the eyes are now protruding into our mouth bag, and it is a disgusting ingon, but that generally isn't going to matter. We can fix that quite easily. Let's go ahead and give her some teeth too while we're at it. Looks like she has pretty big teeth with braces. We'll go ahead and delete half of this and add a mirror modifier. And we'll move the teeth up to about here, down to about here, up to about there, and in until it matches. And we'll just keep doing this until it looks about right. Alright, that is actually starting to look pretty decent now. So go ahead and smooth that out. The only area that's still bothering me is the connection between the eyes and the jaw there, which I think we can still smooth out some. I think we can take this whole loop. This is the problem with mouth bags, they connect everything. Move this guy up. And smooth it out some that way. In general, we want this shape to be pretty smooth. Again, I'll let you all smooth your stuff out. I'm not going to worry a whole lot about it. Yeah, that's creepy. But it is, so far, generally working. Let's just smooth this out a little bit. I think if we pronounce the eyelids a little bit more, it might actually work better. And let's go ahead and smooth again, just a bit. And I think we can take parts of this edge loop and sort of move it in. Just sort of sculpting the cheeks here to be more cheek-like. Like so in 3D. And she's currently at 1 subdivision surface level, so we'll put her up to 2 just to see what's happening. We can go ahead and sort of smooth this all out by edge sliding stuff around. In subdivision surface mode, you can turn it to this view by clicking this button right here, which can be double-edged sword a little bit, because you don't know where you're actually moving the vertices, you just know what it's looking like when it's smoothed. But it can also be very helpful to tell you exactly what your model is looking like when it's smoothed. Like this area right here is particularly ugly. So if we, for instance, take this guy and move him in, it can sort of fix the ugliness to some extent there. And we can turn that back off and smooth stuff out manually too. This might be too many edge loops around the mouth, to be completely honest, but I like the amount of control it gives us on the cheeks. So I'm going to keep it for the meantime. Although I might have approached the nose differently if I could redo this. because this whole area is a little bit awkward. But hey, translating into 3D, not the easiest thing in the world to do. Let's give her a sweater while we're at it, and we can smooth this out later. It's just so many artifacts, I really want to smooth it. Sorry again for stopping talking, it's just I'm really curious as to how to fix that up perfectly. I'm thinking that the loops here are just a bit heavy. And copy paste. Let's go ahead and get a light here. New image. I'm not going to do any complex textures tonight, won't have time for that just because modeling takes a lot of time. But hey, that is starting to come along kind of. Yeah, let's give her a sweater. We can turn our background image back on, and it looks like this needs to come down further. We can shape this a bit more. Not half bad for such a short effort. Not half bad at all. Let's see what she looks like with some subsurface scattering on her face. Node editor. Shift A, shader, subsurface scattering. Copy pasta. That's a bit much. Yeah, that'll turn out pretty cool. I'm gonna up the subdivisions on all this stuff. And then we'll continue. So normally I would do a lot of things differently when modeling a 3D character. The hardest part about this one is just how close the eyes are to everything else. But we worked with it. And this is just one process for modeling a 3D character. I'll probably do another character modeling tutorial sometime in the future. But to go ahead and do this sweater, we will add a circle. 16 seems about reasonable. Put it here at the center. It's going to come up here. We're going to sort of put her neck at the center of it, like so. We'll extrude it down, scale. Extrude the scale, and then we'll add a nice subdivision surface. Extrude, scale, extrude, and that should work for that part of the sweater. And we can go ahead and move the hair back some, or not. We can move the sweater so it's in front of the hair. Then, or we can just work with it later. I'm not too worried about it. Could even just take the center portion and move it back. Like so. And we want this to match her sweater color. I know that her sweater has rainbows on it, but we're not going to do textures tonight just because of time constraints. But we'll go ahead and color pick. And extrude, scale, scale Y. We can go ahead and again get rid of half of this. And it looks like this sort of, the neck here sort of goes in a bit smoother than that. But you get the gist. And it looks like the edges also come up a little bit higher than the front and back. And we'll go ahead and add ourselves a nice mirror modifier before the subdivision surface. And that will give us the start of our sweater. Which, if you look at her from the front, it looks like the body is actually going to be pretty much just as skinny as the sweater. But, which means like no shoulders at all. But I'm gonna put her in T-pose in case I ever want to rig her, which is a good possibility. So we'll start there and then go ahead and create some circles. I usually start out with 8 for the arms. Rotate it 90 degrees. And we'll scale it out, move it out like that. So we want to get these about the right length, so somewhere around there to compensate for the bending. Should be pretty good. Like so. And we'll go ahead and hit Control N to fix the normals. You can go ahead and scale this down a little bit since she's wearing a sweater. And we're not going to model hands tonight, just because that is a bit much for a tutorial that's already gone on this long. So I'm actually going to probably just steal some hand models from a previous model that I've done, especially since the focus of this tutorial was really on methodology behind head modeling, not necessarily good head modeling. Good methodology, bad model. But hey, hopefully you learned something out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth this out. And it looks like this actually needs to come up a little bit. Then we sort of scale in because it's like a sweater. Like so. And if you hold on a second, I'm going to pause here and find some hands that I can use. Okay, so I found some hands, and these are hands that I created a long time ago, and I just use them for everything. Since her hands are generally hidden in her sweaters anyway, it looks like, we'll just put them right there, and that will just add to the illusion that there are hands there. Like so. Perfect. And then we'll just continue along with our body modeling, which I'm going to actually split this. So edge split, because we want one more subdivision before the arm loops all the way around. So we'll go ahead and do that. And we can go ahead and connect these here and sort of bring this one around, turn on clipping. And we can move this forward because her body is sort of like a triangle. And we can even move this stuff around. And we'll go ahead and move this down too. It's not half bad. It's still pretty creepy. I think I'm going to end up making the pupils much bigger, even though they're not much bigger in this show. We just want her to be a less creepy looking character in 3D. Alright, so let's go ahead and add a couple more edge loops here that can then connect under the arms. So this is, for instance, going to come out and around just like our previous one. And we'll bridge like so. You can go to the center. We'll bring you down since you pretty much go straight down, don't you? We can go ahead and extrude this guy down to where it goes, pretty much. Oh shoot, I have not been paying attention to the reference on this at all. So this actually goes to about there. You go to about there. Looks like you bag out some. We can go ahead and apply the scale. We're going to want some thickness to these sweater areas. And we're also going to have to scale the hands down to match. Something like that. Ought to work. And then we can go back to just the body and hands. The hair is in the way. And we can sort of, what was I gonna do here? Oh, right, I know what I was gonna do. I was gonna sort of wrap this around the arms, because getting this ring around the arms will give it pretty decent deformations. And this will connect right here. So now I've got this nice ring that goes under the arms to give us sort of an armpit almost. Which actually this whole body needs to come in, so I'll just start dragging this stuff in. Because she is much skinnier than that. And sort of start sliding stuff around. Edge sliding is a really good way to sort of smooth stuff out. And that will generally work. So then we just have to take you and extrude you down, like so. Hit F to connect. Subdivide it, drag out the center so it matches the center here. Which is going to be something like that. Then we can take this and connect it up here. Subdivide it, move it in so it matches. move this subdivision up. We can connect all of this. After we get it all connected and working, then we can start to smooth it out more. Alright. So we have two options here. We can create a weird circle type formation by adding more edge loops here, just so it's not so big. Or we can go right across and right down. I'm going for the circle formation because that is my preference. This will give us more deformation area for the arms. We can move all of this in, move this up. And this topology, again, might not be perfect. This is just sort of a bonus. I'm throwing it in as part of the tutorial kind of thing because she needs a body. I'm just modeling how I would model it. Uh-oh. What did I do wrong? I don't think I subdivided here. There we go. So now we have a body that is in T-pose. We have a head. These guys can go to... it doesn't feel equal for some reason. I guess it's the lighting. Interesting. Well, go ahead and add more edge loops to the arms, or around this area that goes up by the neck, like so. Sort of smooth this out. In general, when you're modeling characters, or anything in general that's going to deform, you want the faces to stay pretty square and uniform, which I've done a pretty terrible job of here tonight, but that's because I'm going fast. As you can see, we really need these to stay nice and uniform. So for instance, I would slide this up because that A, it just gives for nicer deformations when you rig it. There is no B to that. And it makes for nicer looking, smoother models too, but in general, it has to do with deformations. You want your mesh to be nice and uniform, which this collar is not at all. So let's go ahead and work on that a little bit. Just sliding these around. Just sliding these around. Sliding this around. Just sliding this around. Like so. That'll give us a nice rounder, anyway, collar. And now if we unhide everything, render out. And that will give us Mabel. Let's give her a skirt too, which the rest of this is pretty straightforward and easy, fortunately. Another good habit for rigging is to have all of the body edge loops straight, because it'll give you nice bending, at least up until a point. And we can extrude you in, extrude you up, extrude you in, extrude you down, scale. You could also just make the skirt a separate object. I just don't really feel like it. You can take it, extrude it in, scale in. Add some nice edge loops here to make it look more skirt-like. Select the faces and we'll give it a new material, and we will match this color, the nice purple that she wears, like so. And then we just have to give her some legs, and we have Mabel from Gravity Falls. We're missing the nice eyelashes and eyebrows here, but those could always be textured on or handled in a different way completely. But overall, for converting a 2D character to 3D, this isn't turning out too awful. Let's go ahead and create a ground plane for where her feet are going to be, about there. And let's go ahead and create, I don't want to use a cylinder, we'll just use a cylinder and give it 8 vertices. Put it in the center, drag it down here. We'll go ahead and turn on a mirror modifier. Scale it down, move it over, scale it down, move it over. Delete these faces. Match up where this is. Match up the socks. Create 3 subdivisions for the knees. Although she has bendy legs, so if we were to ever rig this, we would totally have to figure that one out. But we can go ahead and move these here. Just for the sake of the render that I'm going to make for the tutorial splash screen, we'll bend those a little bit. We'll go ahead and assign the skin to this. And we will assign some socks to here. Then we will go ahead and work on the shoes, which this is how I generally model shoes when I want them to be part of the same object. She has pretty big feet. So we'll go ahead and move the socks up as they should be according to the drawing, although I need to compensate a little bit for that being in perspective. Then we can extrude back and complete the loop right here. And hit J to connect that. And that is starting to look like a shoe, if I do say so myself. Then we can go ahead and close this here. Create some loops here, slide this one back, slide this one back. Go ahead and close this off. Like so. We'll create another loop here just so if we ever want to rig it, it can bend. Which these are super low poly feet. Might be nice to have more loops coming down, but that's alright. We'll scale this to 0 on the y-axis just so we can shape the feet better. We'll move all this out. Same here. And if we want to add the socks there, we can make that a texture or we can model it in. It looks like we have it set up pretty well to model it in though. So we're going to go ahead and add a subdivision surface. Complete that. We'll add a loop here to make the socks stay where they're supposed to be. Then it looks like we can add one more loop here. Add one more loop, scale it in, Actually, we can bring it all the way to match, then scale in just a little bit. Add another loop. Select all of these edges. Make them the secondary material. Or third material, wow. Black. And then, Alt-H. Looks like the feet need to be much bigger. And rounder. And then we can sort of move the sock transition area in some, like so. And that will give us some shoes, which we can then pose a little bit since we're not rigging her tonight. And I'll go ahead and add a camera. Bring it out. Up the focal length, since she's a cartoon, there's not going to be much perspective, so we'll put it at about 50, which is also supposedly what her eyes are about at. I'll get the camera from about straight on. We'll up this to 65, move it out. Then we will turn the clipping up to 1000, just so we can see far enough. We'll add a nice photography studio kind of layout here. Smooth it down, and take a look. I think the arms are a little bit long, so I'm going to go ahead and shrink those in just a little bit. And heck, let's see. Okay, yeah, they're still a little bit long. Alright, and that will conclude modeling of Mabel, which eventually I would like to texture this and smooth it out more and all of that good jazz. But for the time being, this will work for this tutorial, especially since it went so long. Hopefully you learned something about modeling cartoon character heads. I usually start out with the circle method. You can start out with the cube method. You can start out any way you want. It's whatever you're comfortable with. This is just the method that I personally am comfortable with and am quickest with. Also, my hands no longer match up. I'm gonna have to go over that whole ending spiel again. Alright, so again, hopefully you learned something in this tutorial. Hopefully it was interesting. Sorry it dragged on for so long. Also, I'm sorry that it has been so long since I've posted a tutorial. It's just been, I've been swamped. But hopefully I will see you all again next Tuesday, and if I can find my mirror ball, I will do a neat compositing tutorial for you. But for the meantime, that will be all. I hope you all have a fantastic evening, and I will hopefully see you all again next Tuesday.